Thank you very much. One of the things I love to do most is to tell stories. And what I would like to do this afternoon is to tell you some of the favorite stories of American children. And one of those stories is called Lizard Song by George Shannon. And it goes something like this. There was once a lizard who lived on a flat rock out west. And there were two things Lizard liked to do. He liked to sing, and he liked to dance, and he liked to make up songs. Now, they weren't fancy songs, but they were his songs. And every day Lizard would stand on his rock, and he'd start to sing. Zoli, 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 rock is my home, rock is my home. Zoli, 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 rock is my home, rock is my home. Well, one day, Bear came down the road. Now, Bear was the kind of bear that when he saw something he liked, or he heard something he liked, he took it. And he liked Lizard's song. So Bear came up to Lizard. He said, Lizard, I like your song, and I want you to teach it to me now. Well, Lizard was real friendly. And he said, sure, Bear, okay, I'll teach you my song. And he started singing it, and this time you join in, everybody. Zoli, 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 rock is my home, rock is my home. Zoli, 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 rock is my home, rock is my home. After about 10 tries, Bear got it. He said, Lizard, I think I got it. Listen. Zoli, 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 rock is my home, rock is my home. Zoli, 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 rock is my home, rock is my home. Lizard said, Bear, that's real good. So Bear went on home singing his song. Zoli, 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 zoli. But what Bear didn't see was a pond. And on that pond, there were ducks. And suddenly those ducks flew past Bear's nose. Oh! And he was so surprised that he forgot the song. Zoli, zoli, oh, zoli, 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 oh, zoli, 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 oh. So he went on back to Lizard. He said, Lizard, I forgot the song. I need you to teach it to me again. And Lizard said, well, sure, okay, Bear, I'll teach you the song again. And so he started singing it. Everybody join in right now. Zoli, 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 rock is my home, rock is my home. Zoli, 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 rock is my home, rock is my home. After about 14 tries, Bear got it. And he went on home singing his song. Zoli, 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 zoli. When suddenly, a little rabbit ran past Bear. Well, Bear started chasing that rabbit. And the rabbit ran even faster. And Bear chased that rabbit. And the rabbit ran even faster. And Bear kept chasing. Oh. And he lost the rabbit. What else do you suppose he lost? Oh, he couldn't think of a single note of the song. So he came on back to Lizard. But by now, Lizard had fallen asleep. And no matter what Bear did, he couldn't wake Lizard up. He said, "Lizard, wake up! Lizard, wake up! Hey, Lizard, wake up!" But Lizard would not wake up. And so Bear took Lizard and put Lizard in a sack. So Bear put Lizard over his shoulder, and he started home. Now there wasn't any singing, and there wasn't any dancing. And inside of that sack, Lizard woke up. And it was dark inside that sack. It was scary inside that sack. And whenever Lizard felt scared, well, he'd sing a song. You sing it with me. Solely, 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 rock is my home, rock is my home. Solely, 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 rock is my home, rock is my home. And then Bear started singing. Now you join me and you be Bear. Let's move the shoulders, everybody now. Okay? Zoli, 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 Jen is my home, Jen is my home. Zoli, 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 Jen is my home, Jen is my home. And Bear went home singing his song, and he never forgot it. And Lizard went home singing his. And that's the story of Lizard's song. So thank you. Thank you.
We are very glad to see you in our country.
Oh, thank you. Spasiba. Thank you.
If we can do American dance.
Oh, thank you so much, Spasiba. Thank you so much for this beautiful welcome. It is our belief that through the stories we tell, we can make peace together. The next story I'm going to tell you has a surprise ending. And it goes like this. There was once a teeny tiny woman who lived in a teeny tiny house. And one day she decided she was going to go on a teeny tiny walk. So she put on her teeny tiny bonnet and her teeny tiny shawl, and she took her teeny tiny purse, and she went out of her teeny tiny house. She walked down the teeny tiny steps, and she went and opened the teeny tiny gate, and then she walked down the road until she came to the graveyard. And she looked down, and there she saw a teeny tiny bone on top of one of the graves. So she thought, oh, I could have that teeny tiny bone for my soup. So she took the teeny tiny bone, put it into her teeny tiny purse, and she went home. She walked into her teeny tiny house, and she took the teeny tiny bone out of her purse, and she put it in a teeny tiny cupboard. And then she thought, oh, I'm a teeny tiny bit tired. I think I'll take a teeny tiny nap. So she went upstairs to her teeny tiny bed, and she got in, put the bed covers up under her chin, and she fell asleep. But suddenly she woke up, for she heard a sound coming from that teeny tiny cupboard. And the sound was, give me my bone. Well, the woman was very frightened. And so she slid further into her teeny tiny bed, and she fell asleep. And she had slept just a teeny tiny time when suddenly she woke up because she heard the teeny tiny voice, and it was a teeny tiny bit louder. Give me my bone. Well, the teeny tiny woman slipped even further down into her teeny tiny bed, and she fell asleep. When suddenly she woke up, because she heard the teeny tiny voice, and it was even louder. Give me my bone. Teeny tiny woman was so scared, but she inched her way back up the bed. She pulled the covers down under her chin, and then the teeny tiny woman said in her loud, teeny tiny voice, take it! Of the teeny tiny woman.
It's kind of neat in a way that they are people too, and they really aren't that different. And just because some of the architecture is different and policies are different, it's just really like America.
We communicated with each other, and even without language. And it's because she wanted to tell me to hurry up, So she goes, and that was her way of telling me to move. And I'm going, oh yeah.
Century, and that city young, gem of the northern world, amazing. From gloomy wood and swamp upsprung, had risen in pride and splendor blazing. I love thee, city of Peter's making. I love thy harmonies austere, and Nieva's sovereign waters breaking along her banks of granite sheer. And then in Russian, they say, Lublю тебя, Petra Kari.
This next story was created by my good friend and wonderful storyteller, Dr. Arnie Nixon. But in order to tell this story, I have to have a volunteer from the audience. So who would like to come up here and help me tell this story? Please raise your hands. I think the person is sitting right there. Would you come up, please? This is an eager person. Your name is?
Asa.
Asia. Asia?
Yes.
Okay. Asia, we're going to tell this story together, you and me.
Yes.
All right? So sometimes I will tell you what to say. And sometimes you will just make it up all by yourself, all right?
All right.
Okay. Well, once upon a time, there was a little girl whose name was Asya. Now, there was one thing that Asya liked to do every night before she went to bed. She liked to take her pajama top and pull it up so that her belly button was showing. Now, her parents said, Asya, you shouldn't go to bed at night with your belly button showing, because if you do, the belly button monster might come and take your belly button. But that didn't bother Asya at all. She went to bed at night. She pulled her pajama top up and let her belly button show. Well, one night, Asya was in her bed, sleeping. So fall asleep. Close your eyes. And she was sleeping. Keep your eyes closed. Still sleeping. That's the girl. Stay sleeping. Let's snore a little bit, Asya, so that we know you're really asleep. Just snore. Stay sleeping. Now, while Asya was sleeping, there was a rustling sound outside of her window. And then there was a rumbling sound on the stairs. And into Asya's room came the belly button monster. Now, the belly button monster had a whole sack of belly buttons over his shoulder. About 500 of them. And he put his sack down and he looked down. Oh! And when he saw Asya's belly button, well, it was one of the nicest things, keep sleeping, that he had ever seen. And so he decided he was going to take her belly button while she was sleeping. So he reached down, and he took her belly button. And he put it in his sack and put it over his shoulder. And he left. Well, the next morning, Asya woke up and she stretched. Stretch your arms, good girl. Oh, yes, she'd had such a good night's sleep. And then she went to the kitchen and opened the refrigerator. Opened the refrigerator. She took out some milk and drank it, yes. But you remember, her belly button was missing. And all the milk came down and out her belly button. And she was all covered, with milk. Well, she decided to take a bath. So she got in the bathtub, all filled with water. But where do you suppose all that water went? And suddenly, Othia was this big, roly-poly girl. Well, she didn't like that. Do you like that? Being big and roly and poly? No. Would you like to get your belly button back? Yes. Now, Othia was a very clever girl. And she knew something about that belly button monster. She knew that belly button monster had a very poor memory, and sometimes he came back to the very house he had been to the night before. And she was counting on that happening again. So that night, Othia went to bed, closed her eyes, but she wasn't really sleeping. She was just pretending. And there was a rustling sound and a rumbling sound on the stairs. And then into the room came the belly button monster. With that sack of belly buttons over his shoulder, 501 belly buttons. He put the sack down. Oh, he was all set to take another. And he came over to Othia's bed. He looked down. Ooh. And he realized he had already been to this house. So he thought he would just leave, when suddenly Othia's eyes flew open and she said,
Give me my belly button.
Give you back your belly button? You want it back?
Yes.
Oh, Othia, it's such a nice belly button. It's the best one I've ever gotten. I tell you what, Othia, it's getting late. Why don't I come back, next week and bring you your belly button? Would that be all right?
No.
No? Othia, how about if I bring you your belly button day after tomorrow? Would that be all right?
No.
No. You mean you want it back now?
Yes.
Now?
Yes.
Ooh. Well, Othia, it's not easy returning belly buttons. Are you prepared to stand very straight and not move while I return it? Say yes, Othia. Yes. I thought I heard you say yes. All right. So the belly button monster opened the sack. And he said, oh, but Othia, I have lots of belly buttons in here. What makes you think we know which one is yours? And she said,
My belly button knows me.
your belly button knows you?
Yes.
Well, you know, I think you're right. I think I see your belly button right there. Is that it? You want it back. Now? Yes. All right. Stand straight, hands at your side. It's not easy doing this. Are you ready?
Yes.
She's ready. Oh my. Asura. I think your belly button's stuck. Now, can you help me take this belly button off? Pull hard on my hand. Yes, let's try. 1, 2, 3. Oh, you look a little strange with a belly button in your hair. I think you're going to have trouble combing your hair with a belly button in it. Should we try it again? I think this belly button has run out of gas. Asya, I think you better put some oil on this belly button, would you? Some gas. Do it again, dear. We need more than that. One more time. Do it again, honey. All right. Everyone join in. Well, with that, the belly button monster took the rest of his belly buttons and he left Asya's house. And after that, every night when Asya went to bed, what do you suppose she did with her pajama top? She pulled it down. And I suggest that when you go to bed tonight, you do the very same thing.
Children, Michelle is going away in a few days, so we are sorry, but we have to say goodbye, right? But instead of saying goodbye, let's sing a song about our best friend, which is over the ocean. We know a song, but what song do we know?
My boy
Is over the ocean.
is over the ocean.
My Bonnie is over the sea. So next time when we sing this song, we'll remember you, and we sing it very often, okay? My Bonnie is over the ocean. My Bonnie is over the sea. My Bonnie is over the ocean. Oh, bring back my Bonnie to me. Bring back my Bonnie to me, to me. Bring back, oh, bring back my Bonnie to me. Oh, Bonnie is over the ocean. Oh, Bonnie is over the sea. Oh,
I'll blow you and over the ocean, and you make my money to me. Bring back, oh bring back my money to me, to me. Bring back, oh bring back my money to me. Last night as I lay on my pillow, last night as I lay on my bed, last night as I lay on my pillow, I dreamed that my money was there. Bring back, oh bring back my money to me, to me. Bring back, oh bring back my money to me.
The winds have blown
Over the ocean, the winds have blown over the sea, the winds have blown over the ocean, and brought back my money to me. Brought back, oh, brought back my money to me, to me. Brought back, oh, brought back my money to me.
brought back,
Brought back my money to me, to me. Brought back my money to me.
Look at this. Look at this. Oh.
Look here. Do you know a tale about a frog princess?
Yes, I do.
Tell us, please.
Oh, I'd love to tell you the story. Look.
As you already know, Michale Gabriel also likes to tell Russian folk stories. And it was only natural that she came to the Museum of Russian painter Kuznetsov, who is famous for his illustrations of Russian folk tales. In the museum, Michale met with performers from the English language theater studio of the Moscow Teachers Club.
I love the detail. It's enchanting, and I would like to stand here for a long time and study it very closely. It's beautiful.
All right, thank you very much. I'm sorry, and by the way, why do you take so much interest in the Russian folklore?
I think the Russian folklore is rich in images, rich in pictures.
And by the way, not only children, but grown-ups too are fond of fairy tales. As for the children, it develops their imagination.
Absolutely, because it paints a landscape in their minds. And so the child is not just listening to the story, they're participating in the story, they're helping to tell it in their minds. And also, long after the story is over, the child is able to recreate it in their imagination and live it again and again and again. As they do, it gets better with time.
And did you have an opportunity to tell Russian fairy tales in the United States?
Yes.
I mean, for children audiences?
Yes, and I get lots of letters. And children write me and they say, I love those Russian stories. And they say things like, when you go to Russia next time, please tell the children that we like their stories. I told Russian stories, and a whole audience of 200 children will, at the end of the story, will just go, ah. And that's what makes it so special. That's why I'm so privileged to be able to tell Russian stories.
There's no other actor like you who's telling fairy tales on stage, Russian fairy tales.
Well, yes, there are. There are a great many professional storytellers in the United States, thousands of them actually, or people who are interested in story. They may not make their living that way, but they tell stories. And many, many storytellers choose Russian tales to tell because they are so rich and because there's so much to them and because of the images that they evoke. So they're very popular with storytellers.
It's very nice to hear.
Yes, but we know that you are not only an excellent actress, but you are a producer too. So you have your children whom you teach to tell stories, yes?
Yes.
Am I right?
You're right.
Yes, and we are so interested in this work.
It's wonderful to be able to work with children, and I brought 27 children here to the Soviet Union in March of this year and hope to bring more children next summer. And the children love to tell stories. As one child said, I like to tell stories because I like to make people happy. And when you tell stories, you make people happy. And I like to make people laugh. And I like to be able to give the gift of myself. So that's why they like to tell stories, and I like to train them to do that.
So maybe we'll just, will you please take a seat and rest?
Good.
All right. So you like it, and you say that it's mystery. Well, and what about the children? I think that they want to come here and sing too.
They would love it. They would love to see this because they know many of these stories. They know Baba Yaga over here, and of course the Frog Princess is a favorite story.
It's the favorite one.
Mm-hmm.
Michelle, and could you possibly tell us some story, fairy tale, Russian fairy tale?
I was hoping you would ask. I think it would be appropriate to tell the story of Frog Princess because you have this beautiful painting. So why don't I do that right now? Okay, would you like that? Why would I tell it? Sure. This was the favorite story of our guide. So I went back to America and immediately learned this story and have told it to thousands and thousands and thousands of children and adults. So why don't I tell it to you, all right? Oh, good. This is a wonderful scene because this takes place in the palace. And this is when Vasilisa is dancing. So I think we should begin the story.
Once, there was a Tsar who had 3 sons. He gathered his sons one day and he said, "Sons, before I am yet old, I would like to have each of you marry. I should rejoice in the sight of your children and my grandchildren while I am yet young." And the son said, "Well, Father, how will we know that we have your blessing on our marriage?" "I shall give each one of you an arrow. I want you to go into the field, shoot the arrow. Wherever that arrow falls, there you will find your destined bride." So the 3 sons went into the field, and the eldest son put his arrow in his bow, and his arrow fell in the courtyard of a rich Tsar, and his daughter picked it up. The second son put his arrow in his bow, and his arrow fell in the yard of a rich merchant, and his daughter picked it up. The third son, whose name was Tsarevich Ivan, he was the youngest. He put his arrow in his bow, and where his arrow flew, he did not know. He walked, and he walked, and he walked, and finally he came to a swamp. And there, sitting on a lily pad, was a frog with an arrow in its mouth. And he said, "Frog, give me back my arrow." And the frog said, "I will, if you marry me." "What? I cannot marry a frog." And the frog said, "I am your destined bride." Well, what was he to do? Tsarevich Ivan reached down and he picked up the frog and he took it home. Well, several days later, there was a wedding. The eldest son married the Tsar's daughter. The middle son married the merchant's daughter, and Tsarevich Ivan married the frog. Several days later, the Tsar called his sons. He said, "I should like to know which one of your brides is the best needlewoman. Bring me a shirt in the morn." Well, Tsarevich Ivan went home. He was so sad. The frog was bouncing about on the floor. And the frog said, "What is it, Tsarevich Ivan?" And he told her. And she said, "Ah, Tsarevich Ivan, you go to bed. The morning is wiser than the evening." And he went to bed. And then the frog hopped across the floor, hopped onto the porch, cast off its skin, and became Vasilisa, the wise and clever maiden. And she clapped her hands. "Come, my women and maids, make haste and set to work. Make me a shirt by tomorrow morn in threads of silver and gold, just like you made my father in colors bright and bold." Well, the women stitched and stitched, and they made a beautiful shirt, and they wrapped it in a towel, and they placed it on the table, And then Vasilisa put back on her frog skin. In the morning, she was hopping about. Well, Tsarevich Ivan took that shirt to the Tsar, who was already inspecting the shirts made by the two sisters-in-laws. This shirt isn't even good enough to wear to the bath. And he looked at the second. And this shirt, this isn't even good enough for a servant to wear. But when the Tsar saw the shirt that had been made by the frog, he was pleased. Now this shirt is fine enough to wear on a holiday. Well, the two sons went home. They said to their brides, "We misjudge that frog. We think she's a witch, and we'd best watch her." Well, several days later, the Tsar called his sons. He said, "Now, I want to know which one of your brides is the best baker. Bring me some bread in the morn." Well, Tsarevich Ivan went home, and there was the frog hopping about. He told her of his need. She said, "Ah, Tsarevich Ivan, you go to bed. The morning is wiser than the evening." And he went to bed. And then the frog hopped into the kitchen. For who should be looking through the window? But a servant sent by the two sisters-in-laws to spy on the frog. But the frog was so clever. She began to knead the dough. And then she hopped up on the stove, broke off part of the stove, and threw the dough inside. And the servant raced home to tell the two sisters-in-laws to do the very same thing. And then the frog hopped off the stove, hopped across the floor, onto the porch, cast off its skin, and became Vasilisa, the wise and clever maiden. And she clapped her hands. Come, my women and maids, make haste and set to work. Bake me some bread by tomorrow morn, prepare the dough tonight. Just like you made my father, a soft white dough so light. And they did. And they decorated it all around. And then they placed it on the table. And she put back on her frog skin. In the morning, she was bouncing about. Well, Tsarevich Ivan took that bread to the Tsar, who was already inspecting the breads made by the two sisters-in-laws. They were lumpy and charred. Bah! But when he saw, the bread that had been made by the frog, he was so pleased. He announced a grand ball and told the sons to bring their wives. Tsarevich Ivan went home. His head hung low. He did not want to take the frog to the ball. And she said, Tsarevich Ivan, you go on ahead. And later, when you hear a thundering sound, tell the guests to not be afraid. It's your bride coming in her box. Well, Tsarevich Ivan went to the ball. And the sisters-in-laws were there with their bright red lips and roses on their cheeks and their arched eyebrows. And they said to him, Tsarevich Ivan, where's your bride? Couldn't you find a handkerchief nice enough to bring her in? When suddenly there was a huge thundering sound. And he said, don't be afraid. It's my bride coming in her box. Well, all the guests went outside. And there they saw, coming toward them, a gilded carriage drawn by 6 white horses. And out stepped Vasilisa. She had on a gown of sky blue silk studded with stars. She had a crown like the crescent of a moon. She took her husband's hand, and they went inside, and all the guests followed. And then Vasilisa went to the table where the wine was, and she drank some. And she poured the dregs in her left sleeve. And then she went to the table where the swan meat was, and she ate some. And she threw the bones in her other sleeve. And then she took her husband's hand, and they began to dance round and round and round the room. And the guests watched. And then Vasilisa waved her left sleeve. And when she did, a lake appeared. And then Vasilisa waved her right sleeve, and when she did, swans appeared on the lake. The two sisters-in-law went to the long table where the wine was, and they drank some, and then they poured the dregs in their left sleeves. And then they went to the table where the swan meat was, and they ate some, and they threw the bones in their other sleeves. And then they took their husbands' hands and they began to dance. And then they waved their left sleeves, and wine poured out all over the guests. Well, then they waved their right sleeves, oh dear, and bones flew out in all directions. And one of those bones landed in the Tsar's eye. And he sent them home. Well, Tsarevich Ivan went home before his wife. And when he went into his house, there he found, next to the stove, the frog skin. He took it, he threw it into the fire, and he burned it. Vasilisa came home. And when she saw what her husband had done, she said, oh, in 3 more days, I would have been yours forever. And now, because you have burned my skin, I am banished. I am banished to the thrice-tin tsardom of Koshchei, the deathless. If you would find me, you would find me there. And with that, she turned into a cuckoo bird, and she flew out the window. Tsarevich Ivan wept. I do not know how long, but he vowed that he would find his wife. Tsarevich Ivan walked. I do not know how far, but his hat was torn, his boots were worn, until one day he came to a man who was as old could be. And the man, who was as old could be, said to him, Tsarevich Ivan, you had no right to burn your wife's skin. For you see, her father was very jealous of her because she was so much more clever than he. And so, he cast a spell on her to last 3 years. Ah, but it is done. Now, I want you to take this ball of string and follow it wherever it goes. And Tsarevich Ivan, you be of good courage. And Tsarevich Ivan took that ball of string and he followed it. And one day he saw a huge black bear. And he was about to shoot the bear when the bear said, do not kill me, Tsarevich Ivan. You may have need of me one day. And he spared the bear. And then another day, he saw a drake flying overhead, and he was about to shoot the drake when the drake said, do not kill me, Tsarevich Ivan. You may have need of me one day. And he spared the drake. And another day, he saw a hare scampering along the road, and he was about to shoot the hare when the hare said, do not kill me, Tsarevich Ivan. You may have need of me one day. And he spared the hare. And then another day, he saw a pike swept up on the shore. And the pike said, "Please, Zarvich, throw me back into the water, please." And Tsarevich Ivan took the pike and threw it back into the sea. And then he followed that ball of string until it came to the wood of Baba Yaga, the witch. A Baba Yaga lived in a house on Chicken Lane, and she had teeth made of iron. And he found Baba Yaga sitting in her favorite position on the stove ledge, with her crooked nose against the ceiling. And she said, "Tsarevich Ivan, I was wondering when you would come. Oh, it is not going to be easy to get Vasilisa back. For you see, Koshchei has her under his spell, and his death is at the end of a needle. And the needle is in an egg, and the egg is in a duck. And the duck is in a hare, and the hare is in a huge chest at the very top of an oak tree, which Koshchei watches. Oh, it is the apple of his eye. It will not be easy to get her back." But the next morning, she told Tsarevich Ivan where the tree was. And he came to the oak tree, and he could see the chest and its branches. And Tsarevich Ivan pushed and pushed at that tree, but the chest would not move. When suddenly, out of nowhere, came a huge black bear, and it attacked the tree and uprooted it, and the chest fell flat. And the lid flipped open, and out scampered a little hare. When, out of nowhere, came another hare, attacked the first, and the duck flew high, high into the sky. And then a drake appeared out of nowhere and attacked the duck, and an egg fell down. And the egg fell into the sea. "Oh no," cried Tsarevich Ivan, "I'll never get her back." When suddenly, out of the sea, came the pike with the egg in its mouth. Tsarevich Ivan took that egg, and he broke it in there with the needle. And he began to bend it. And as he did, Koshchei twisted and turned, and then Tsarevich Ivan broke the tip of the needle. And when he did, Koshchei fell dead. And then Tsarevich Ivan ran up the hillside toward the castle of Koshchei. And there, coming toward him, was Vasilisa. They embraced. They went home together. And they lived